I got a new mic. Okay, hello. So I've talked about bands like the Beatles and the Beach Boys pretty extensively on this channel, so naturally I get asked things like, hey, could you talk about Pink Floyd? Could you talk about Bob Dylan? Could you talk about the Velvet Underground? No, today I'm going to talk about ABBA. Literally, no one has asked me to do this, but I don't care because ABBA has just done something unprecedented in the history of popular music, and I want to talk about it. Firstly, if you're new to this channel, hi, my name's Elliot. I talk about music from the 60s and 70s, usually a lot of Beatles. I also talk about movies, usually ones based off real people, and if you want to come along for the ride, hit subscribe. I would love to have you. So, ABBA, the Swedish four-piece, has just released a new album, Voyage. It is their first new release in 40 years. 40 years. That is insane. Like, that is unheard of. I mean, I think that's unheard of. I'm sure someone will comment,
this band waited 60 years before their next album. You don't know anything.
Before I even get into the album, I want to give context to how long 40 years actually is. Imagine after the Beatles broke up in 1970. By the way, John Lennon and George Harrison, they're alive in this hypothetical. So they break up in 1970, and then all of a sudden they release an album in 2010. Or like if in 10 years' time, Talking Heads released another album out of nowhere. Like, that's the time frame we're talking here. It's just bizarre. Anyway, I hope you all understand what 40 years means now. I think the appeal of ABBA has always been that they're a band that makes quite dramatic music. The winner takes it all. But at the same time, it's music that's also very fun and light, even a bit silly at times. Which is a pretty tough needle to thread. Their songs feel like they were chemically engineered in a lab to produce the catchiest hooks and generate the most euphoric of moods. And look, they were always popular in their time with their dedicated fan base, but they rose to fame in the mid-70s where many rock groups were infusing their music with all kinds of political messaging. Then you have the rise of punk, which saw this anti-establishment trend. And then there was ABBA with their scandy pop disco sound, who were just there to make really fun dance music. Unfortunately, the quote-unquote establishment of music journalism never really took ABBA too seriously. The same critic who tore Paul McCartney's album Ram to shreds, Robert Christgau of The Village Voice, said of ABBA, "We have met the enemy and they are them." Gatekeepers of culture like Christgau decided that ABBA were simply lightweight boppers with nothing of substance to say. This is a reflection of the boys' club of music journalism back then, where music like ABBA's, which was most publicly enjoyed by women and gay men, were not of the same caliber as other rock artists of the time. Nowhere was this more prevalent than in their home country of Sweden, where just the fact that they were a commercial band who didn't bother with political messaging in their music was enough for the Swedes to write them off, at least at first. Hey, sorry dude, just letting you know we're going to be starting an ad now.
We're doing a what?
This video is brought to you by Surfshark VPN. Have you ever tried to watch some hot new TV show or movie but been denied because you don't live in the right country for some reason? Maybe you live in any of these great nations like Poland or Turkey and want to watch the new Beatles Get Back, but whoops, your country doesn't have Disney Plus yet. Well, then I've got some good news for you, because with their ability to help you get around frustrating geo-blocked content, Surfshark VPN has you covered. With a click of a button, that streaming service can think you're in the US or the UK, wherever you need to be to watch the content that you want to watch. Do you also want to feel safe and secure when browsing the web? Most internet users aren't even aware of the amount of surveillance, limitation, and data mining done with their personal information on a daily basis. But with Surfshark VPN, you become an anonymous and hard to trace online user, which in turn makes the internet a safer and more enjoyable place for you. Look, I barely even know what an IP address is, but I got my account set up and running within a minute, and right now, Surfshark has a really good deal on. By using my link in the description along with the promo code Elliot, you will get 83% off, which means for like a couple of bucks a month, you can be fully protected. Plus, you'll get 3 months for free. Surfshark VPN also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you use it, it's not for you, you can just cancel your subscription and get your money back. Thank you, Surfshark, for sponsoring. All right, so is that all you need? Is that good? Okay, yeah, very good. Thank you very much, as you were. Now, back to the video. After they broke up in 1982, it still took a few more years for them to garner the love and respect that they rightfully deserved. Then, to many people's surprise, over the years, some of music's toughest rockers came out as die-hard ABBA fans, including Sid Vicious of the Sex Pistols, Lemmy from Motorhead, even Nirvana, who after seeing the ABBA tribute band Bjorn Again in 1992, invited the act to appear with them at Reading Festival.
Thank you to Nirvana.
Then after the release of ABBA Gold in 1992, aka the single best compilation ever next to Queen's Greatest Hits, a newfound love for the band was starting to emerge. Well, I'm Australian, and as any Aussie will tell you, we as a country bloody love ABBA. The tribute band Bjorn Again, they're Australian. In 1994 alone, 2 films, Muriel's Wedding and Priscilla Queen of the Desert, included multiple ABBA songs in their soundtracks, and are now considered 2 of the best Australian films ever made. Then you've got the insanely successful musical Mamma Mia, which was a massive hit on both the stage and with its screen adaptation, not to mention its equally beloved sequel. And in the last couple of years, I've personally noticed an increase in ABBA's popularity, especially with younger people, who have perhaps recently discovered them. There's like die-hard fans on TikTok and Instagram that do amazing hair and outfit homages to the band, and I just think that's pretty cool. Also, real quick, ABBA had some incredible musicians who really helped bring out their sound. Just check out this quick clip of their regular bass player, and I'm probably going to butcher this pronunciation, Rutger Gunnarsson, playing the bass line to Dancing Queen. Sensational stuff. I think their bass lines especially are super underappreciated. So over these 40 years, the members of ABBA have been able to bask in the ever-growing love and respect for the band, and all the while witnessing this critical reevaluation of their music through things like compilations, musicals, and an induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And this whole time never coming out with a single new release. Until now. A few months ago, we were met with the news of a brand new ABBA album coming out, Voyage, plus a unique live experience, which I'll get to in a minute. Right now, I want to quickly share my thoughts on the album Voyage. When ABBA released the first 2 singles, I was pretty blown away, to be honest. I Still Have Faith in You and Don't Stop Me Now. What was it called? I Still Have Faith in You and Don't Shut Me Down are 2 excellent choices to not only establish the tone of the album, but they're 2 tracks that fully encompass what has always made ABBA great. I Still Have Faith in You, which also opens the album, is a huge, sweeping epic in the same vein of The Winner Takes It All. The intro and verses showcase Agnetha's and Annefrid's vocals front and center. I know I'm probably pronouncing those wrong, I just didn't want to say Agnetha and Annefrid.
Hello, I'm Agnetha.
Agnetha. It's obvious from the age in their voice that time has passed, but when I heard those first few bars, I could immediately recognize their unmistakable tone and warmth. Then when they belt that rousing chorus, I was just astonished at how good they sounded. How after 4 decades, they still sounded so much like ABBA.
It almost sounded like time hadn't passed. And plus it was such a beautiful, romantic, sort of melancholy, bittersweet, retrospective.
Dave Grohl admitted to crying like a baby when he first heard this song.
And wept like a baby. I cried like a baby. Ugh.
And yeah, Dave, you're not the only one. Check out this TikTok of this mum who's like a diehard ABBA fan hearing ABBA for the first time in 40 years. The second single, Don't Shut Me Down, scratches that Dancing Queen itch with a somber and wistful opening before a glissando piano trill launches us into a jaunty disco track with equally compelling lyrics. I don't know what else you could want from ABBA's return. Then we got the other disco banger, Just a Notion. Then we got the other disco banger, Just a Notion. If it sounds different to you from the rest of them, you're spot on, because the vocals were actually taken from a rejected 1979 track.
Just a notion, that's all.
The instrumental underneath is all new, however. It's got an irresistible bouncy groove to it, and man, I've been listening to this track at least once a day since it was released. Now, in my opinion, if ABBA had come out with just those 3 tracks, that would have been more than what we could have hoped for. But they did give us an entire album, coming in at a tight 37 minutes. However, I do think the 3 aforementioned tracks are the strongest on the album. The other songs that I still enjoy are No Doubt About It, which is another up-tempo disco romp with a hell of a catchy melody in the chorus. Reminiscent of Does Your Mother Know? Also, Keep an Eye on Dan has a quirky, enjoyable quality to it, even if the lyrics are rather melancholic. There's a track that I really don't like, which is Little Things, a gentle, Christmassy number that interpolates the melody of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I really don't know who this is for. The other 4 tracks range from fine to fairly good. But overall, there's plenty of great stuff on here to really justify making a full album. And I think that ABBA, who have admitted that there will be no follow-up album, this is it, should be commended for having the guts to come out from their deep slumber to release their first new set of songs since the goddamn Reagan administration. They kept the music, quote, absolutely trend blind, which I think was a really smart move. I love that they're not trying to fit their style with what's currently popular, nor have they borrowed much at all from the musical landscape from 1981 to now. Through the electronic pop of the 80s, the birth of hip-hop, the bubblegum pop of the 90s, the new generation of Swedish artists and producers which brought us the early sounds of the Backstreet Boys and Britney, the indie pop of the noughties, none of it is utilized. Instead, we have ABBA doing what ABBA does best, making ABBA music, almost as if no time has passed.
It's amazing. ABBA can do no wrong.
Now, onto their other big announcement. ABBA is delivering a live show starting in May 2022. But here's the really weird part. None of them will actually be there performing live in the flesh. Instead, the audience will be watching a performance of the quartet's avatars. Now, don't be mistaken, this is not technology we've seen before. This isn't some shaky hologram of Michael Jackson or Tupac that only looks good from dead center. Audience goers also won't be simply looking at a screen either. Instead, they'll experience a never before seen kind of technology, where ABBA will seem to be performing live on stage in a look that replicates their 1979 aesthetic, complete with feathered hair and glam rock costumes. For 5 weeks, the members of ABBA put hours of their time wearing motion capture suits to help to depict their younger selves.
When you see this show, it is not a version of or a copy of, or for people pretending to be ABBA. It is actually them.
This performance also won't be a tour, as it's all contained in a custom-built London venue. It may come to other cities, but no announcements have been made. Personally, I think this is really fucking cool. I've seen septuagenarians play live, and apart from a couple of outliers, they're not exactly super captivating on stage. I love Brian Wilson to death, but seeing him awkwardly shuffle to and from his piano in 2016 broke my heart a little. You're trying to enjoy this performance of this music icon, and all the while you're just reminded of their mortality. And I don't know, it can just kind of take you out of it a bit. But if someone told me I could watch the Beach Boys performing like it was 1966, well, that's a different story. And look, nobody knows if ABBA's actually going to pull this off. No one's seen the actual concert yet, but I have high hopes. And especially if the crowd gets a little bit silly beforehand, what's to stop them from believing that that's not really ABBA traveling through time to perform to a crowd in the future? I could imagine being not even that inebriated and being fully swept up in that reality. They've always been on the cutting edge of technology, even in their heyday. I mean, part of the reason they won Eurovision back in the day was because they didn't look like every other band. They looked like these weird, sparkly glam people from outer space. I mean, just look at them now, with their Apple Watches and everything. I just love that this band is really thinking about their legacy and taking a big risk with it. And really, this could be the beginning of something big for aging artists. I'm obviously very interested in music from the 60s and 70s, and I'm very aware that a lot of those artists are approaching the final years of their life, and some sadly never made it this far. But to those who are still alive and kicking, I think this new live show from ABBA really raises the question, how do you want to be remembered? Obviously, the main answer is through their music, and maybe that should be enough. But we're approaching a time where in a couple of decades, most people won't be around to tell you what it was like to see ABBA live, or the Beatles, or whoever it might be. And maybe this kind of show, which can theoretically run for years like it's fucking Phantom of the Opera, maybe it's a way to keep your legacy not only alive, but thriving. The idea that there's some kid out there who has some really cool parents, and they take this kid to this live show, and that kickstarts a lifelong love affair with ABBA, I just think that's amazing. The potential for this kind of thing really opens up one's imagination for how this music can be celebrated for years to come. So now it's over to you. Let me know in the comments what you think of the new album. Will you be trying to get tickets to this live show? Do you think it sounds like a complete joke? Or could this be the future of live musical performance? And hey, this video was a little out of scope of my usual stuff, so if you enjoyed it, please give it a like and comment to let me know if this is the sort of thing you'd like to see in future. As always, thank you to my patrons, and please hit subscribe so you can see more of my stuff in future, because I got some really great videos lined up. My name is Elliot. Thank you once again, all you ABBA fans, and I will see you in the next one.